This is the Mod Pod, brought to you by Modality, helping businesses optimize their Microsoft technologies everywhere.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Mod Pod. Yes, we've survived episode 1 and we are back with another 3 topics for this week. I'm Peter Vasey, I'm Head of Technical Services from Modality, and I'm joined this week by Kathy Carter, Senior Project Manager, and Paul Hayward, Senior Solutions Architects for the company. Today's topics are emergency callings in Teams. Is it a real thing anymore? Can you really put contact center in Teams? And does your choice of background really affect how people treat or view you? So let's crack on with topic number 1.
Emergency calling in Teams in the modern world, with most people working from home, with a potential return to the office at some point this decade, is the ability to make an emergency call using Teams still relevant today? What do you think?
No. There you go.
Yeah.
Next topic.
Yes.
Wow. There's lots of little bits and pieces to this one, isn't there? The ability to dial and basically tell the emergency services where you are. If you've got a mobile phone, if you've got Teams as an app running on your mobile, if you're using a laptop from potentially any of your offices or coffee shop or something like that, surely it's got to be a solution that's on its way out. How can we really get to the point where we're sure where anybody is? No, I don't think it's got long to live.
I think there's still a duty of care for companies to provide some means for employees to make a call using a handset or something like that. But I do agree with you. Like, if I'm faced with emergency, and I have been in the past, in the office, I would tend to use my mobile because I can sit it beside me. If somebody's collapsed, it's there on the floor beside them. I'm not running back and forward to the desk, to the floor. It's just practical, the mobile's there. But if you're talking about fire emergencies, obviously you'd run them scarper with your mobile phone.
Exactly. I mean, I can't see if we take fire as a prime example, if the building's burning down, hang on a second, let me just sign into my client and I'm going to sit at my desk making a call. Now, I think the vast majority of people these days are just going to grab their mobile, assuming they've got one, mm-hmm. and then do a runner out the door or whatever it is that you need to do. I guess not everybody has them. There are certain manufacturing or health or whatever it may be sort of arenas that people work in where they're probably not allowed to take their mobiles into that sort of work situation. But surely that's got to be quite into the minority now, I would have thought, wouldn't it?
Somewhat. There's some MOD sites or highly secure sites that they still adhere to those things. You're not allowed to bring mobile devices in, end off. But the number of times I've got up from my desk, gone to the loo, locked myself out, and I'm thinking, is that an emergency? But I've no means of contacting anybody other than hammering a door, hoping that somebody will let me in. But having a phone in those circumstances, at least you can phone somebody. Say,
I'm not quite sure locking yourself out was quite the emergencies we were talking about, but it's got merit. It's got merit.
I've done it a few times.
You do you, Kathy. If you take your laptop to the toilet and you feel you need to use Teams to tell
well, that's the problem. See, I don't. That's why I got the handset.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a shift that needs to happen from the emergency services side, because they must be entering a point where they can't trust the information being provided to them. Is it going to be a case of you get to a situation where organizations have to go through like a validation every year? If we get a call from this number, it is absolutely going to be on this building site in this region, and then everything else is taken if it's not got that little gold star or something next to it, then is it something that they automatically then ask, where are you? Or are they just going to always ask where you are?
Typically, when I've ever phoned them, they've always asked where you are. It sounds like I've phoned them.
I was going to say, it sounds like
it doesn't happen that way, but I have been in a few instances where I have had to phone emergency services.
When I speak to Jonathan regularly on the police call desk every Friday night.
That's another story altogether, Pete.
It is. It is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it going to be one of these things that sort of hangs around as a sort of a leftover legacy? Because I know from the technical side, Paul, configuring E911 and all that sort of stuff can actually be quite a big beast, can't it?
It's very involved. Sometimes I liken it to an out-of-body experience. With the amount of coordination work that you need to do with not just the network team to find out IP addresses, but depending on the makeup of the actual technicals of the company that you're working with, you may have to know where every individual switch within a building is and what part of the building that switch services. So picking up on you saying E911 just a few minutes ago, E911 is extremely involved. For anybody that doesn't know about E911, it's basically a response to a load of legislation within the US where, as a caller, you have to provide the location of the person to the public service answering point so they know where you are. And whereas in the UK, when we phone emergency services, or when Kathy does, she verifies where she is. I am at so-and-so address, or I'm on St. George's Street, as an example.
Do you think we're going to get to some sort of point? Sorry to cut across you. Do you think we're going to get to some sort of point where we end up with a sort of a geotagging service, geolocation service tagged onto those sorts of calls?
I think it's going to get a lot smarter globally, personally. So we have services like Teams which can provide that location awareness to the emergency services if you set it up correctly. But I also think that mobile phones, if you look at the UK with a big push on what 3 words utilise to show where you are in the event of emergency, which has helped save numerous lives of people stuck up hills. Mountains. I just call them hills. And I think that particularly mobile phones are going to actually start being able to pass your geolocation coordinates off the GPS chip in your phone to the emergency services when you make that call, as much as a verification of where you are to stop prank callers, but also for if you are stuck up Mount Snowdon, you get in trouble. Instead of having to pull up what 3 words, find your 3 words and then say that out, it's going to automatically give that to emergency services.
I mean, I like to think of myself as relatively technically sound, shall we say. Not as deep as the likes of somebody like you, but the logic behind it to say, if you place a call to 999 from your mobile or your app or whatever it may be, if you match that pattern, send some coordinates, surely it can't be that big a leap. It's just something that needs to be agreed and standardized and rolled out, isn't it?
There's potential privacy concerns around it. If you can do it for one type of call, you can do it for others, but nothing that can't be handled at a technical level by, like you say, stripping it down so it's only an emergency services call that can do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would need to be obviously regulated from people far more sort of empowered than we would be on that kind of thing. But I mean, if you're dialing an emergency services number, surely that kind of thing must be in consideration somewhere along the lines.
Yeah.
I would like to hope so.
Yeah.
So it just makes me think about all the spy movies where they're doing, trying to find people through their mobile usage. And last time, you think, is that all true? Can they do triangulation and find people?
Well, to be honest, every month I get an email from a certain search engine service that tells me where I've been, which obviously is not very far at the moment. So the tracking services are all there.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you like the co-op? Well, it was the same as every other time I've been there. Thanks very much. I'm not going to rate it again. But yeah, I think there's the services have got to be there. It's got to be a case of pulling it together, I think. Cool. So what's the summary on that one then? Is it going away? Probably not, I guess.
Not
No.
anytime soon.
No. Should it go
No.
away? Probably at some point.
Depends.
Great.
For saving you some work, Paul, if nothing else.
Well, if it'll save me some work, I'm all for it. Get rid of it.
Right. And on that note, let's move to topic 2.
Can you really put contact centers into MS Teams?
Okay. Is there any more to that question, or is it just
We all heard in sort of like 2018, 19 that Microsoft were going to develop APIs to make the Teams work, contact centers work properly in Teams. Are we there yet? Should people have been holding off moving from Skype for Business and moving their contact centers from Skype for Business into Teams, or even from legacy contact centers using PSTN calling, etc., into Teams? Are we at a point now where we can reliably say it's going to work as a contact center?
Okay. I think there are a couple of angles to this. Yeah, I'm going to come out with a true consultant's answer now. It depends. Hey, I've said it. I guess whether or not we're talking about telephony as a contact center, which is what I think people traditionally think of. We're obviously seeing a big shift now into chat-based contact centers, social media-based contact centers, moving away from that sort of the voice-based stuff. If you take the answer of can you, well, the answer is yes. There's several vendors out there that claim to be able to do it, and some of them do it in different forms to the others. I think from my understanding, most of them are missing the last little piece of the jigsaw from Microsoft, but they all have some kind of offering. I guess the question is, if you've got a contact center at the moment, not can you, but should you move your contact center into Teams? Because there's a whole bunch of functionality around. Obviously, if take an example, if you are just a voice contact center, could you use the native call queuing in Microsoft and get away with that? However, if you want the bells and whistles, then yeah, you probably should do. Paul, what do you reckon?
I'm going to sit on the fence as well. It all depends.
You've said it too now.
Yeah, just taking off your point about depends on what the contact center does. It's not a cop-out answer. It really does. If you have a full connected contact center using chat, email, fax, some people still fax.
No.
That was dying years ago, surely.
Still happens. Then you've got calls on top of that. You may have some AI services that handle some of your chat functions on your website within the contact center. Integrating Teams with that and utilizing Teams could be as simple, depending on the vendor, of just receiving a phone call within the Teams client. Some of the cloud contact centers, all they do is phone a phone number. So Teams is kind of already the contact center client anyway. When you're looking at whether it's a fully tightly integrated contact center like some of the Skype for Business ones, again, it comes to a question of, are the vendor features that you need mature enough yet? If the answer is no, do you have a middle ground? If the answer to that is no, then you're stuck with Skype for a little bit more until things catch up. But most of the vendors that I work with in the contact center space within Skype for Business and Teams, everything is there and thereabouts. It's just waiting for these last few little pieces to finish the puzzle. So again, it depends.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen and with the work we've done, because let's face it, we do a lot of contact center work, right?
Yeah.
The offerings that we have, I think, fit the bill. Are they 100% perfect? Not quite, because they are waiting for that little bit. Are they strong enough to allow somebody to move their contact center into Teams? Yeah, I think they are. I think there's very few reasons now why people wouldn't start taking that as their core strategy. You know, we are talking about some fairly minor things, but you know, it depends whether I guess whether you have a federated sort of approach for the contact center or whether you're actually doing it as a trusted application. The one thing that we're seeing common across almost every single customer is the fact that it's all going cloud-based. I don't think we've done an on-prem one for ages.
No, I can't remember doing
Good couple of years anyway, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you can. I think you can. I'd struggle, I think, at the moment to find a reason why you couldn't.
So I've seen this great surge, and obviously the COVID lockdowns, where people had their legacy telephony systems with their wonderful contact centers, but they had to be in the office, and the agents had to be in the office to respond to those things. So because of COVID and things, remote working kicked in. So a lot of people were diverting the calls to Teams. Essentially, they stood up Teams very quickly. So I'm finding that a lot of people were making that final decision. Will it work? In most of the programs that I've delivered, like you say, it depends on what you want the feature is, what features you require. But on the whole, most people have migrated successfully to new contact centers.
Here's a follow-on question then. Is the traditional contact center of loads of people sat in banks of desks dead?
It depends.
Yeah.
I'll use your...
We're going to have a depends count now.
It depends. If they get the wall boards and the information and all those good things visible, because I've known agents who like to see what the call queues are coming in. The supervisors want to see what their agents are doing. And sometimes they like to walk over to people. It's a traditional, hands-on approach in contact centers versus working remotely. And some of it's very difficult for them to transition from where they used to do business to how they now have to do it remotely and managing a remote team.
Do some of those companies still operate punch cards as you enter the building and leave?
No.
I have used the punch card in my time in anger. But I would imagine, I don't know. I mean, I've never worked in a call center, contact center environment, but I would imagine the culture of having people together is probably really important to making that work as an environment.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in one in a past life, and it is quite a troublesome environment to work in if you're a highly social person and you're not surrounded by people, because you're constantly answering or making phone calls or handling some form of interaction with a customer. Those bits of downtime, that 15 minutes to grab a cup of tea or your hour lunch break and just to be able to actually just interact with people that work within the contact center is really important to the people when they work in there. So I think that the contact center environment will maintain being that within the office viewpoint, but a much more hybrid approach where some people will be home working. It may be a 60-40 split or some other percentage we can make up.
I think a lot of people have had an exposure to that more contact center type approach where it is back to back call, back to back calls, because as we've gone through the various iterations of lockdown, we've all had this conversation where people see a gap in your diary and put something in it because, hey, you're not going anywhere, are you? So you're there. And that relentless piece is, is quite hard. So yeah, I think the cultural side of it is going to be super important to retain. The technical side, I think the answer is yeah, you could put contact center and Teams up. I'd quite happily, I think, go toe to toe with somebody who said you couldn't. Not in a physically violent kind of way, but counter arguments. Yeah, yeah. come on, have a go if you're 25 miles away. But I do think that there's very little reason why people should be hanging on to their Skype for Business these days, just to support contact center.
Like I think the way forward is to have those home workers, people who have got dependents where they can't. The commute, if you go that way environmentally and cutting out the commute times and all that pollution and stuff, it's the way to go, really, is to have the remote working if you're an environmentalist. Well, it is, and it's to travel anymore.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that comes onto a bigger topic, and I've written articles about it and stuff in the past where, you talk about working from home. I don't think anybody ever quite saw the pandemic coming in and accelerating it at the rate it did. But even if people go back to a sort of a working regime that is, they work in the office 2 days a week instead of completely at home, that's a 60% reduction in emissions.
Yeah. And
if everybody did it, it's a 60% reduction in, traffic on the roads, etc. So it's really quite a big set of numbers you could play with. But I mean, we've gone slightly off topic, I guess. But I think it's definitely something worth thinking about. But for me, the commute has always been, in my mindset, extra hours that I could be working rather than sat in the car listening to the radio or music or whatever it is. But it's that balance of not having to add on those extra hours to do stuff. And more productive. But
I've sort of gone off topic as well. I've known industries or companies who are reducing their footprint in city centres because the operational overheads of paying for a workstation for a person to sit at.
Yeah.
And they're reducing that. A lot of people say, no, we're encouraging you to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because you don't need it.
Well, now that we've gone suitably off topic,
I know. Sorry.
I think we should move to topic number 3. Okay, so my topic for today, slightly more light-hearted than the other two, is: does your choice of background, physical or virtual, make people treat you or view you differently? So, an example for you: I called not so long ago, sat with a room full of people, virtual backgrounds on for some of them, and one gentleman sat there with a room full of bright balloons behind him. Can you take him seriously? So, do virtual backgrounds affect how people see you?
I think it depends on the gravitas of
There's that depends word again, isn't there? There we go.
If you're talking to like a CEO and they've got balloons, do you take them seriously? Oh yeah, you take them seriously. But if you talk to somebody who's, just one of your team members and you think, what are you doing in your background? You're not seeing clients like that, are you? It really would depend on who that person is and the topic, I guess. And if it's a social event, it's a business, what's the meeting?
Oh yeah, I'm not so worried about the social. I think people can do what they want on the social side of it within reasons, obviously. But yeah, it's just more. So I was on a call a while ago, not with the same one with the balloons, and someone turned around to me, a client said, oh, you can really tell a lot about somebody's background, and I've learned a lot about you in the last few seconds. Right now, it's all blurred out, but there's a whole bunch of books down one side, and then there's a workbench behind me with drawers for various components for the stuff I'm sort of messing around with. Is that bad? Does it make me look like a child that I am? Or if I went and put up a background of Star Wars, does that pigeonhole me into some other kind of category? I don't know.
I've known companies to put up a general one with GDPR because they don't want to see anything in the background. So they say, right, you must have your company logo in the background and always have that as your background.
I don't like the company background thing. I really don't.
I'm not either. I like my escape cupboard in the background. And
that's where you go and hide when things get tough, is it? You just slide into the cupboard and close the door.
I'm jumping in there now, actually. I don't want to live in any world where the choice of background dictates how people treat you, or whether you're using a pickle filter or you're joining a call as a cat and then you're here as a live person. I find that they're really useful and it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I find that sometimes the choice of background can act as a bit of an icebreaker with people that you're working with. Now, as an example, I was doing a video call with one of our partner organisations, and I just happened to join with the desktop background being the Winchester from Shaun of the Dead, because we were dealing with a particularly difficult technical issue. So I thought we can all go to the Winchester and wait for it to blow over, because that's what they did in the film to terrible effect, which was pretty apt. I've joined a call with a customer that has had major issues with the "this is fine" meme background behind me, as an icebreaker to just get them to understand that, you know, I may be coming in as a third party to help them out with a bit of trouble, but I'm still a person. I'm not just a number. I'm not just a consultant. I'm a person. You can have a back and forth with me, and you know, it's easier for me to get information from them when they know me as a person. I am slightly crazy.
I'll make a note though that you are a human being.
Yeah,
I'll keep that on for read for later on.
I'm not a cat. I'm a live person right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, isn't it? But you do see these ones where people have put filters across their faces, and you just think it's never going to go away. Every time your name comes up, that's what's going to come up with you. But yeah, I mean, there's also things I find quite amusing about it is you can go onto a call with 6, 8, 9, 10, well, however many people on it, and quite often you'll end up with 3 or 4 of them in the same room, in the same seat. Yeah, exactly. We could all jump into the same room that you're in now, Kathy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, the worst I tend to do is this, blurring backgrounds, and that's typically the thing that drives me to do that is that there will either be a mess behind me, realistically. So if I blur it, it's harder to determine that there's a mess. But I'm not actually that bothered about what people really see behind me, because it's my office space.
I guess some people don't even have an office space because they're being forced to work remotely. They might be working out of the bedroom, and like you say, it might be messy, it might be lovely and tidy, but it's still a bedroom, and maybe they don't want to let people see that.
Like the lady who left something on her bookcase in the background on the BBC News for her. Yes, there are certain things I think that just blurring your background continuous is probably not a bad idea, but it's real life, isn't it? So does it make any difference? Not really. Does it change how I view someone? No, not really.
I sometimes find some people's background distract a little bit because you are looking to see what is on their bookcase, maybe, or do you do that bit where you get the clarity between the headphones and you're trying to peer through to see what it is behind them? That's just me then, is it? Right, okay. Yes,
yes, it's just you. Sorry, Pete.
Okay. More often than not, I'm finding a lot of people don't bother with video calls.
Definitely. Video calls in general?
Well, they do the calling, the voice, the audio, but they don't necessarily switch on their cameras.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a pest for that. I will ask people to turn on their cameras or
see the whites of people's
a massive subtle hint about, you're not putting your camera on today. Which I find really important, especially with all this, the last 12 months.
Yeah.
If I had £1 for every time I had to join one of you, I had to go run into the bedroom to put some clothes on before I have a call with you, Pete, I'd probably have a tenner.
Oh, that's not an image I need. Yeah. So where's the blackout filter for other people? So just turn your camera off. So no, I mean, I guess most people don't worry too much about it. Does it bother everybody? I don't know. I guess there must be some people who they see the background and see that you've put up a Star Wars or a cartoon one or something's on fire, so where they'll sit there and make a judgment about you. But would they do that regardless, even if you were in the office with them?
I don't know. I think if it's internal, some people will get upset, I think, because I think it's not the complete image that you want to portray. Or some people, like you say, don't really mind. It's it is lockdown. People still have sense of humor, depending on what your background is. Obviously, mine's not very humorous, but
I chuckled when you switched that one on. I did. It was.
But it's just people's opinions and how they see that they're. If it's a company, is it how you want people to behave when they're on video calls? The company image and all that, or
yeah, I guess for me, it boils down ultimately. I really don't care too much what people have behind them or not. It's the same reason that you won't find me wearing a suit, is because it's just not me. It's not what I do. It's not how I'll still be smart. But I like to think that I'm actually being paid for the contents of my head and the information that I've got in there, rather than what I'm wearing or what the background of my office looks like. So
I think during lockdown people have relaxed a lot more. I don't know how many people actually wear suits at home these days, from what I've observed.
No, I mean we've been doing quite a bit of recruiting, and it's interesting to see how many people have turned up to an interview, bearing in mind we've never spoken to them before, and they've just been in a t-shirt. Others have been in full suit and tie.
Well, only from the top up anyway.
Well, obviously only from the top up, yes. But you do think that's quite strange, because from that perspective, wearing a t-shirt, I'd say even if it's an interview, I would expect somebody to be a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in a full suit and tie. Somewhere in the middle would have been right. So, don't know. But so, what do we think, that choice of background is utterly irrelevant unless it's something horrendously offensive?
I think so.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't offend, I don't see the problem. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there we go then. I can breathe a sigh of relief when I go back onto my next internal call, I think. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, both. That's the end of topic 3. Once again, I was joined by Kathy Carter, Senior Project Manager, Paul Hayward, Senior Solutions Architect for Modality. I'm Peter Vasey. If you want us to talk about anything in particular on one of the future episodes, please do drop us a note to themodpod@modalitysystems.com, and we will be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode. Take care.
This is the Mod Pod, brought to you by Modality, helping businesses optimize their Microsoft technologies everywhere.